All right, so tonight's webinar, workshop, whichever you would like to call it, it's going to be on self-care, how we foster a self-care practice that is active and I guess meaningful for all of us here. And I'm sure that most of us do have more than one job, more than one role in terms of just our lives in general. So hopefully there'll be some aspects of what I go through tonight that you find useful. All right, and just let me know at any stage if you're not able to hear me okay, because that just means I'll need to project my voice just a little bit more than what I normally do, what I normally think. All right, so I'm going to start sharing my screen. Can everybody see that first of all?
Yes,
Perfect.
self-care.
All right, gorgeous. Well, off to a flying start. Okay. Oh, maybe not so much if I can't maneuver. Oh, here we go. All right, so the first thing I'd like to do is just an acknowledgement of country before we start. So I begin tonight, by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet tonight and pay my respects to those elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. All right. Oops. Yes, perfect. All right, so before we jump into the agenda, I'll just introduce myself again for those who may or may not know me. My name is Debra Fidler and I'm on the board of Reiki Australia. And one of the passions I have, which I think I shared last time, is how I can be of service to others in this sort of journey, I guess we lovingly call life. And like I said before, like all of us here tonight, I juggle many roles myself, from being a carer, mother, therapist, practitioner to teacher. But this webinar, what we're doing tonight, is about you. And so what we want to do is really look at how we can deepen our practices all the time. So I guess first of all, hang on. Just threw away my notes, which probably are not helpful. Okay, so in this webinar, and one of the things that I've been quite conscious of is that it's not really about specific Reiki tools or techniques. So you deepen that practice through the doing, through the mentoring, through the Reiki share practices. So this is really other ways that we can extend our skills. It's really, and they tend to, so if you see me presenting, it's usually on something that I feel a little bit passionate about, something that I feel that is important to all of us as practitioners in our lives. So tonight I will cover some of the basics. Hopefully it's a slightly different slant from what you're aware of. And I'll lead you through some different practices. Is one of the things that I've noticed, and I say this in a therapeutic sense, that, you know, a lot of what I say, sometimes I use the word rubbish, but a lot of what I say is not going to be relevant to you, but some of it might, and some of it might trigger or give you an idea of something that may be helpful. And that's really what this is about, because when we really start to look at the nuances, particularly even of self-care, it's very broad and it's very wide. So so just sort of keep that in your mind as I go through some of the points. Plan, as in this, the last one is that there is a reflective exercise of reflective exercise. We'll share the learnings, we'll go into some breakout rooms, say hello to one another, and then we'll come back for questions. So that's our sort of agenda and plan for tonight. But the first thing I wanted to really talk to you about is, what does well-being look like? And if you find yourself, you know, in normal conversation, when people say, how are you? And the first thing that pops out of your mouth is, oh, so busy, really busy, then notice that. Notice that. Busyness can sometimes be a distraction. And for me, it's often, when I'm sitting with folk, it's often a red flag that perhaps there's some part or some aspect that we're not focusing on self. And given, I guess, the occupation or what we work primarily in, and I call that very generally, you probably heard me say before, allied health, you know, we're serving others. And so serving ourselves isn't often on our priority list. It's not even often on our to-do list. So what I want you to do firstly is actually to notice. So when I'm saying to you that, tonight you're going to be focusing on self, you're going to be putting self forward. So just notice internally what you're feeling. Is there a feeling of guilt that's coming up that I shouldn't really be doing this? Is there a belief that perhaps you're lazy? I hear that from some folk that I speak to, and I can't, if I focus on myself, that means I'm lazy. Or if I stop and rest, I'm lazy. So just notice what's coming up. And just actually focus on that feeling, and see if you can give it a name. See if you can notice where you might have felt it before. Is it a conversation that someone has said to you in the past? Is it something that we've learned? Is it something our parents have told us? Is it a value? And some of us do. We have a value where serving others by definition means that we don't serve ourselves. But in terms, I guess, of our own well-being and what that looks like, it's paradoxical, isn't it, really? Because we actually have to serve ourselves first before we can serve others. And so this is just a wellness circle. What I'd like you to do is just to kind of glance your eye over it and just rate yourself, in percentages, right? Rate yourself out of 100, 10. Actually, how you rate doesn't matter as long as it has some meaning. But, look at yourself and go, okay, so what is my social health like and the meaningful relationships in my life? Where is that setting? Is that 70% and 80%, 20%? What about my belonging and community? Where does that sit? So similar. So just work through each of those 1, 2, 3. So that's 6 of them, 6 aspects in well-being. I'll just give you a couple of minutes just to sort of quickly score yourself before we start. Now, this is not where you want to be. This is where you are now. So you have to be sort of a little bit honest with yourself too. Just sort of give me a thumbs up or a hands up when you think that you're done and finished. I can see a few thumbs up just on what I can see. So hopefully everyone is done. All right. So.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay. Right. Oops, here we go back. So that's well-being, but let's have a little look at what rest looks like. One of the things that in the work that I've done with rest and what self-care looks like is that there's many different sorts of rest, whether it's physical, mental, sensory, creative, emotional, social, and spiritual. We're going to go through each of these because one of the things that I've observed is that self-care is multifaceted. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. All right. So let's have a look at the very first one, which is physical rest. And so physical rest, when we're looking at our own self-care practice, it's passive, which is sleeping and napping, but it's also active, which might be activities such as yoga, stretching, massage, etc. And whilst sleep is important, and I think, to be honest, it's one of those underestimated in terms of well-being generally. It's one of the most underestimated aspects of health. Because when you're sleeping, it's letting your brain and body repair, it's re-energizing, it's processing things that you have done during the day. So it's going through all of the events of the day. It's processing the memories, and it's I sort of, I think we've all sort of seen Inside Out, where you sort of, you see all of those memories go up and then they sort of get scooted into different parts. But it's that processing, the processing of what has happened during the day. And yes, we do need kind of about 7 hours of sleep. But active rest is a little bit different, because sleep is obviously passive rest. So active rest is in the term, and it's recommended that most people should have around about 1 to 3 rest days per week. So it could be light exercise, it could be a walk, could be mobility, but so it'll be a combination, I guess, of the two. So physical rest is our first aspect of self-care. Mental rest is the second, and that, I guess, kind of sounds a little bit self-explanatory. That's about giving our mind a break from all the activity that we do to reduce that mental fatigue. Sometimes we can go to sleep and we can still wake up exhausted. If we're a little bit prone to anxiety or stress, then that mental exhaustion is going to be far more felt in the physical body, as well as just in our general sense of self. And so we're looking at what the mental fatigue is, and about how we can enhance focus and boost creativity. So it's and I guess if we don't have enough mental rest, what could that look like? So that could mean that we're a little bit irritable, that we're forgetful, we have a difficult time concentrating. When we lie down to sleep, our mind is now going into it's just either replaying things that have happened during the day, or it's focusing on one very tiny thing that that our mind has just decided that we didn't do right, and it replays that, or it amplifies that. So it's exhausting. But one of to tell you that it's absolutely exhausting. And so when we're looking at what we might do to I guess counter that, some of it is just even scheduling rest breaks during the day. And I guess one of the things that it occurred to me, so most of us have sort of, I'm sure, have done some sort of work in mindfulness and meditation.
Yep.
And so mindfulness is not just something we do, that sort of 10-minute practice that we might do during the day, right? So mindfulness, really, we're talking about a practice that we would build into every part of our life. And one of the things that I guess I wanted to emphasize is that is actually how I see self-care. It isn't something that you do at the end of the day. It isn't something that you do your exercise and you tick it off and you go, yes, I've done that. It isn't something where you go, yeah, I've had a coffee with a friend. I've done my self-care. It's more than that. So it's something that is active. It's an active part, and it's ongoing. All right. Sensory rest. Now, I have a few clients that are neurodiverse, and so this is a really big one for them, because it has a huge, really, really huge impact. Just the overstimulation, I can't get that word, stimulation. But for all of us, whether it's been noise or light or going into a supermarket, all of us can get a sensory overload. So it's looking through, okay, so what do I need to change, whether that's the computer screen, background noise, extra conversations, bright lights. And so our sensory rest, can be doing things like turning off the TV, closing your eyes. It can, even in the middle of the day, it can just be unplugging from all electronics. But it's an intentional moment. It's an intentional moment that we plan into our day to give us some rest there. Any questions so far? The fourth one
I
is
don't think so.
okay. The fourth one is creative rest. That's an interesting one, I think, when I first looked at it, because it's a little bit more than just sort of, I guess, activating, the other side of our brain. It's important for anyone who has to do a lot of problem solving or brainstorm new ideas. But when we really fully engage in creative rest, and that's one way of looking at it is engaging with the beauty, whether it's in art or nature or music, that sort of sense where you become inspired when you're outside and you're looking at, whether you're in the Blue Mountains, wherever you happen to be, and there's just a beautiful part of nature, and just really breathing in the essence of what it is that you're looking around. Just that feeling. It's the reminder that, we can't spend 40 hours a week just going into work or just doing what we're doing, whether it's 40 or 20, without any other aspect around it. And one of the, I guess, the other principles that I'd like you to consider is that we're often saying yes to many, many things in our life. And so one of the things that I'd say to you is, what can you say no to? What can you say no to? Because often we're looking at things, people come to us, can you do this? Of course we can. Because, we very quickly, because we're healers, we're very, very quickly to either go into what I call sometimes that rescue mode, or sometimes, our needs get, pushed down a little bit. And sometimes we don't realize that we're saying yes to a lot of things, and that we're on all these different committees, or that we're helping out, whatever it is. But yeah, so it's sometimes also important to look at what you can say no to. So, can I get back to you? Let me think about that, versus, jumping in immediately and saying yes. The fifth one is emotional rest. And, when things come up for us, right? So when we consider, if we're confronted with something or triggered with something, for some of us, our thoughts are just going to take us down a trajectory where we're looking at the worst possible scenario. For others, we're going to feel a whole lot of stuff in our body. Our heart might be beating really fast, palms might be sweating, but we have a physical somatic reaction. Or we can just have an emotional reaction where we're sort of really sad, really angry, whatever it is, but we become lost. We can become lost in it, right? And so emotional rest is giving ourselves the time and the space to cut back. And this looks, which I quite like, how do we cut back on people pleasing and looking after others? Because this is something we do all the time. And how can we express our authentic feelings? And so if someone says to you, how are you doing? And your automatic response is, I'm okay. Notice that, right? Because when you're doing that, and if that's your go-to, you're not being authentic to yourself. Now, it might not be appropriate if you have a client with you to, tell them everything. You'll know when it is, when you should be authentic, and when it is relevant. And so emotional rest requires that courage to be authentic, right? It requires that courage to say, no, I'm not doing okay today. And sharing some things that you might not have said, that might go unsaid. One of the things I see a lot with people in my practice is that some of us are really, really good, and we've got a really good support network around us. And so we do speak to others, and we're really, really great at sharing what we are. Some of us will have friends that we'll share some things with, but we don't share all things with. but knowing, you know, who you've got to go to, and at least having a couple of people that you can actually say anything and everything to. So in other words, they're on your team.
Yep.
They're on your team, and that's the best way I can describe it, right? You
Yeah.
know, they're on your team,
Yep.
no matter what.
To share your feelings with, as you said, being appropriate.
Yeah.
If it's you feel
Absolutely.
safe around them sharing and being that vulnerable person.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
important to
Yeah.
use your discernment.
Oh, absolutely. You know, Lainey, I mean, because look, you know, if you've got a client in front of you and they say, how are you? Well, no, you're absolutely not going to be saying, had a really crappy day and, you know, my daughter did this or so-and-so did that. No, of course you're not going to share that. But, you know, if you're talking to a friend, have the courage to, when I say have the courage to say this, it, when I say it astonishes me, it probably shouldn't astonish me, but it saddens me that we don't think other people are there for us. You know, we're always there for somebody else because that's the nature of like who we are. You know, we are there. And for some of us, we actually think no one is there for us. But we don't even test that hypothesis. We don't even test it to see whether it's true. Yeah. So that's why I always, you know, say, you know, like we have, I think, you know, we have this Are You Okay Day. And one of the things that bugs me the most is it really shouldn't be one day, right? We should be able to say that every day. Are you okay? It should be an everyday thing. All right. The next one is called social rest. And so social rest is, it's a little bit more than just solitude and taking a break. And it's a little bit more than that. So yes, it is about working out who are the people that exhaust you, and you'll know who they are, who they exhaust you, right? You know that already. But it's also about looking at what I call the social health of your relationships. So where are they? And, you know, have a really, sometimes it's important to take time and have a really strong critical look. I mean, do you have a friend that actually really isn't there for you? That, you know, she's the one that you're going to be, she'll always be telling you all of her problems, but really when you do have something that you need to share with her, she's either not available or you can just tell she doesn't want to hear. So first of all, rate the social health of your relationships, because this is about getting the best social rest. The next thing that I would say to you is I often use the home garden and front fence analogy with folk. And so I say, consider all the relationships you have in your life and then decide which are the ones that you are comfortable bringing in your home, bringing into you. Which are the ones, and it doesn't matter whether this is family, because often it is family, right? Often you shouldn't be bringing family into yourself. Who actually just stays in the garden outside the house? They don't come into your home, right? You're kind of stuck with them, but they're in your garden. And who are the ones that actually don't even come in the front fence, right? They're outside your front fence. Who are the ones that actually you need to work out? Who, you know, where is this distance? What do I need to put in place? What boundary do I need to put in place? And don't feel guilty if it is family, because in a lot of cases when I speak to folks, it feels incredibly guilty and really hard to do, but it's also very important for self to do that. So, and I guess the other thing that I would add around that as well is that if you do have an important relationship, right, a friend, a partner, whoever it is, how often are you connecting? You know, are you connecting as often as you could? Are you just catching up for a blue moon? Or actually, are you connecting a little bit more frequently? Because one of, you know, so much research that's been, if we look just at loneliness, there's so much research when we look at, okay, so how do we not counter loneliness, but I guess an aspect of countering loneliness is to ensure that the meaningful people that you have in your life, that you are reconnecting with them so that you're getting a sense of enjoyment and pleasurable, what they call pleasurable activities. Right? So if you know someone who might suffer from depression or low mood, you know, one of the aspects that psychologists will talk about is, we'll talk about behavioral activation, but they'll also talk about engaging in connection that is meaningful and gives them joy. And sometimes that's just being with people. Okay, spiritual. So spiritual rest is, you know, for some of us, and I think Lainey's going to be doing a really lovely. When is yours, Lainey? I'll give you a little plug what you've got for us. When is yours?
Next week, this week, Monday next week, yes.
Monday next
yeah.
week. And so that's
Hi,
going to
everybody.
be. Sorry to put you on this one. So that's a, you know, an opportunity to connect with self in a really different space, right? It's connecting to your spiritual self, right? Connecting to something beyond the physical, beyond the mental. You know, sometimes for me, it's in that deep space. Sometimes it's in that deep space when we're healing. We're connecting to something that is bigger than us because, you know, we are connecting to the most, you know, beautiful source of unconditional of love, something that is much, much bigger than us. So it's what that looks like. But the finding meaning, and so it's finding meaning and purpose beyond a daily routine, right? Now, for some of us, that could be meditation. Could be just doing things in the community, volunteering. It could be prayer, it could be going to church. It could be spending time in nature. There's no right or wrong because everyone's spiritual rest and what they require is going to be different. Right, so one of the things that I might just go back to this slide here, I want you now to just rate in terms of where you probably are now with some of the things that we've spoken to in rest and self-care. I'm using those terms very liberally and interchangeably. And then kind of think to yourself, okay, where would I like it to be? So just sort of a couple of minutes just to quickly do that. And again, just do that same scoring that you did before. Sort of give me a bit of a thumbs up or a wave when you. Okay, you can see waving.
Yeah, all good.
Well, okay. All right, so I've got a couple of different practices that I thought we might have a go at doing. I did these, I was in a practice, it was probably last week or the week before. So I thought we'll have a go through doing, so the first one is just really more a reflective practice. And this is, again, just sort of really increasing our own awareness within us with what's happening. So I've got here, think of the last 3 clients. It might be think of 3 people that you've seen just recently, but it's noticing. So just closing your eyes and we'll just do 3. And I just want you to, first of all, just focus on your breath, feeling your feet on the ground. And just bring their faces. So bring the first face to your awareness. Bring it into your consciousness. And just notice any sensations in your body. Notice any thoughts. Just noticing the feeling that when you're thinking of that, whether it's a person or client, how you feel. And just moving now to the second person. Bringing their face into view. Just remembering and noticing how you felt when they're in the room with you. What emotions did you feel? Was it neutral? Feel a bit agitated? Feeling tense? What did you notice? Notice where it's sitting in your body physically. Scanning your body from head to toe. Scanning where that might be sitting. No judgment, it's just an awareness, it's just noticing. And then bring the third person into your consciousness, into your awareness. And again, just noticing how that person makes you feel. Thoughts are coming up. What are you feeling? Just noticing. Noticing any tenseness. Noticing anything, any somatic feeling that's coming up in your body. And just noticing were there any differences between any of the three that you just brought to mind. Be curious. Are there any reasons for that? There might not be. Just be curious. And then just breathing that out. And physically cutting from each of those three people. From those three people. And just spending a minute or two just to sort of write down any of your observations that you had. It's more an awareness exercise. There's a couple of things. It's awareness exercise of you, of how you're feeling and what you're noticing, particularly, with and around other people. I think that we spoke about a reflective practice, it's being able to reflect at the end of the day and just sort of go through, how was I with that client? What happened with that client? Is there anything I could have done differently? Anything I noticed in myself? Did that client bring up anything in myself? Was there any transference? Was there any counter transference? Did I notice any? Did they say something? Was there something that I was triggered by? But just notice, because after you've done that, of course, the reflection part is, okay, what do I need to do with it? Do I need to do anything with this? The answer might be no, I don't need to do anything at all. But there might be something, and that's the lovely thing with humans, sometimes our triggers can be so subliminal and subconscious we don't even notice it. You'll have an opportunity, I think, when we go into the breakout rooms to look at that in a bit more detail, and then we can come back to support. And the second one that I wanted to, might not showing the tapping, but oh no, we'll show you the tapping. So I wanted to also give you what I call a de-arousal, or a something to do when you're sort of feeling quite sort of anxious and tense, but it also helps you relax. So I'm sure we're all sort of familiar with the hand on heart, holding our hand on our heart and just breathing and focusing on our breath. That is absolutely one thing that we can do. Another thing that you can do is called lengthening the spine. So sitting in your chair and just noticing and feeling your spine lengthen. So imagine that it's just expanding and growing. Right? So, and feel the difference in yourself when you've what we call lengthening your spine. It usually makes you a little bit more alert, brings your attention to the here and now, to the current, to the present. So if you're feeling a little bit tired, it's something that can be quite useful. So instead of, imagine kind of sitting back in your chair and how that feels, and then swapping it to lengthening the spine. That might be just a bit of a tool or trick that you can use. And then the other one, which I will show you. So it's the cross our hands, right? Try that. And it's a tapping. It's an alternate tapping. Has to be bilateral. Right. And then as you're doing this tapping, I mean, you can either look at the image that we've got there, but close your eyes. Think of just your happy place, right? Whether that's the beach, whether that's the forest, whether that's the garden. Think of your happy place and tap. Focus on what that looks like, you know, the beautiful underforest, the majestic color of the leaves, the velvet nature, and just the beautiful earthy smell, whatever it is, or wherever you are. Breathing in that, and as you're breathing in, you're tapping away tension. And you're breathing, you're focused also on your breath. You're breathing in for 2, 3, 4, holding 2, 3, 4, breathing out 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Breathing in 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, breathe out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can repeat that as often as you need. There's different variations of that, and there's a website called, I keep thinking of Calm Your Farm, but it might be Calm, and it's Calm Mind, but I'll see if I can find out exactly what it's called. But there's a whole lot of different YouTube ones that you can watch. You know, because some folk are really good at just closing their eyes and being able to get themselves into that meditative space, and others, you know, their mind doesn't stop talking. So, and you know, we all need different things at different times, right? So it's not working out what's going to help you in the moment. Any question on those things that I've just taken you through?
Deb, it's Mim McGrath. Can I just ask with the tapping, the breath in, hold for 4, but when you're breathing out, were you breathing out to the count of 6?
Yes, yes.
Yep, okay, thanks.
There's a couple of things that I've heard. The out breath, if you lengthen your out breath, it's more of a release. That's what some folk tell me, right? It's more of a release.
Okay.
And I've also heard that having a slight pause in between the next breath is also helpful. So play around with it a bit. Doesn't have to be 4, it could be 3, right? You know, you've got to be able to breathe. But it's really, if you're finding, and also
it's helpful.
and also the pace at which you're tapping is individual, right? I mean, I tap a bit slow, but you might find you need to tap a bit fast. And, you know, like if something, say something has really caused some agitation, stress, anxiety, you might be tapping a little bit faster to begin with, but then you'll find, and so if something has like a really good thing to do, something really, so say something's really kind of knocked you over and you really weren't expecting it, think of that place that I call it your happy place, but it can be wherever you want. You know, for me, it's always a beautiful place in nature. So I apologize if I'm speaking, that's where I'm going to take you. But then tap it. It's like tapping away the tension, literally tapping away tension. If you're somewhere where you can't do that, where it's going to be a bit odd if you're doing this, tap your feet, right? Tap your feet. And tap your feet under the table. And it'll have the same. It's it scientifically kind of it instigates what's called a dive reflex. So it's has a whole lot of stuff where what it's doing is it is increasing all that sort of the serotonin. So it's increasing all what I call the feel-good neurotransmitters. But it is de-arousing. It's a physical relaxation that you feel in your body. And of course,
technique.
It's a I give it to as many people as I can, because most folk, when they start doing it, they just tell me it doesn't work for everyone. So I have to point that out. But, you know, for a lot of folk to have it really helps them. In that moment when it's sort of really stressful.
Yeah, very good.
And we need kind of a quick and easy tool, for whatever better expression. All right. Okay.
Yep. No, thank you.
Now, what I'm going to do, I probably have to stop sharing because I need to go into the breakout rooms and I've got to work out how I do that again. Oh yeah, breakout rooms. All right, so I'm going to automatically put you into some breakout rooms. Look, just what I think would be really lovely is if you, obviously chat and introduce yourself, but have it'd be nice to really just share, the things that you yourself have found really helpful, and then we can come back and get a nice kind of pool of, big kind of list for everyone else that works for everybody else. I think that might be nice. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I don't know how many. How many we got? We've got 23. So I'm going to create 6 rooms. So I have no idea how that's going to work out, but we'll give it a go. All right. And so 10 minutes. All right, here we go. Okay.
Room 1.
So have you got a room, Andrew? Or, oh, you have got a room. Okay, right.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry. I think am I in a break room with you? I'm not sure. I'm using my phone, so I can only see your screen. I can't see anything else. I'm assuming is this? I'm not sure.
Anna, let me have a look. You should have. Just wondering. Okay. Let me just 2, 5. All right, you should get an invite. Something should come up and you should be able to go into that room.
Let me see. I haven't received anything. Hello?
I keep trying to move you, but it keeps coming back. So let me just try.
Oh, hold on. I see something.
Yeah. Slowly coming back. Right. Well,
Oh, okay.
Yep, I think we're all back. About 20 of us. I would love to hear
Right.
some
I'm back.
people's I would love to hear some people's favorite go-tos. Far away.
Nature, it seems to be from our group anyway. Nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of trees and animals and birds and water features and
Yeah. Nice. What about everyone else?
I think that wide thing. I think that nature to get out and down to the beach.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, our group, we talked about yoga and stretching and having baths and massages and gardening and breathing. We covered a lot of ground.
Pretty cool.
Mm.
What about anyone else?
Mhm.
Our group was into, we all universally found we had come from busier lives and more corporate lives, and we were really enjoying the balance that we could achieve by moving to quieter places and to enjoy nature, both within our homes and our clinics, as well as the spiritual focus.
Really nice. Lovely. Anyone else like to? One of the things I'd like to add, it's something that I started when I was working probably in when I started, but I think one of the things with self-care, one of the things that I have observed, particularly for myself, because when I'm talking about busyness, that was very much me till I decided that what I really actually needed was to learn how to say no to things, to learn how to slow down. But what actually helped me a lot was having what I called a self-care basket. So there's two aspects to this. So a self-care basket and an emergency self-care kit. So the emergency self-care kit was something that I could take with me at any particular point in time. And there were some things that would kind of perk me up at the time. But the self-care basket was something that I set up after I finished. I used to do some work at Lifeline. So I would finish my shift and I would have this self-care kit sitting, and the basket rather, and in it was all the stuff that was meaningful to me. So I might have had some incense, I had candles. Don't have a bath. I'd love to have a bath, but I had, I think, those bath kind of steamer things that you can get. I had a coloring book. I had my favorite chocolate in there. I had face masks. I put everything in there that I thought that I might want. But the trick was to also have it in a space that I could see it, because I had to actually put it on my table. So as soon as I walked in, I saw it. So in other words, I had to remind myself, because sometimes too, it's about reminding yourself of those extra things that you need to do. So my observation is that we're really good at knowing what we should do, but the practice of it, so it becomes active and like a part of our day-to-day, is a lot harder. And so sometimes we do need to have prompts to remind ourselves to do things. I was listening to a podcast and she was driving a little bit crazy, but she was talking about sticky notes, right? So she said, like, put these sticky notes up, and when you see the sticky note, that's when you know that you need to do, whether it's your controlled breathing or your relax your progressive muscle, relaxation. So she said, and have those sticky notes everywhere. So every time you see it, you're reminded. But the thing that I took away from that is that it has to be active and constant. So no different to our mindfulness. If we really want to practice mindfulness, we're going to be doing it in every moment that we can, whether we're standing in a queue, waiting for coffee. Great time to practice some grounding and mindfulness, right? So it's about the things that you can do to bring it into your life. If you need to have timers on your phone, put timers on your phone. Whatever it is that you need to do, but it's about bringing it to life and doing it a lot more frequently. I've got I think these in Kmart actually. So these are, they're pretty. They're nothing. Probably can't see them. I'm not very. Oh, there we go. These are just self-care. Can you kind of? They're kind of pink. They're pink, right? And at the back, it's got stuff like, you know, back yourself, nourish yourself, give yourself a break. But there's a whole lot of things in here. And so sometimes I'll just pull a card and I'll go, okay, so what is if I can't think of it myself, then I go to my cards. You know, there's some other things there that I can do. So there's lots of little, you can make your own self-care cards actually too. You could probably make some for yourself and give them to clients as well, some sort of Reiki self-care. But it's about how you make it active for yourself. So I guess that's one thing that I'd love to, I leave nothing else with you, but you know, something else that I can leave with you, hopefully might help. So yeah. And don't put things on hold. Right? I think that's the other thing I know that we do a lot, you know, oh, look, I'll just do it later. I've just got to finish this. No, you are important. What you need is important. So slow down and give yourself whatever it is that you need in that moment now. That's the other thing I would also say. So that's all that I had for this workshop webinar. I hope that you really enjoyed it. Has anyone else got anything else I would sort of like to add or say to that? Yeah. No?
Thank you, Deborah.
Oh,
yeah, thanks very much.
Oh, you're welcome. I want to do one in, as I said, I get really passionate about things and I haven't worked out how to make this really interesting yet, but I'm really wanting to do something on an ethical practice and what that might look like. And I want to talk fairly broadly because I don't think there is anything specific for us as allied health workers, but yeah, not sure exactly what that's going to look like, but that'll be the one that I think I've got it for the 26th of August sometime. And of course, we've got Laney's beautiful workshop coming up next Monday. Laney, is it Monday or Sunday?
Sunday.
Sunday.
I thought it was Monday. I better look it up.
I think it's Sunday. I think I put Sunday morning at 11. I think
Sunday.
Okay.
I'll be
I
watching.
think it's Sunday.
Recording.
I think I made yeah. So
Well,
yeah,
we'll just send out another. We'll just send another reminder. Yeah.
It's definitely Sunday.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Thank you, Deborah. I'm going to say thank you very much.
welcome.
So Deborah,
Yes.
did you say you wanted to do something around ethical practice?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you aware of Midge Murphy's work at all?
No, I'm not, Nathan. I'd love to have anything you can share, and that would be great. I was looking at it from a fairly, what I call top-down view of what, for me, are sort of fairly, so because there's a couple of different aspects in terms of, I guess, how we work, you know, as ethical practitioners. And there's different sort of, I know there's some quite different types of Reiki as well, but it's really ensuring that whatever we do, we're kind of, yeah, we've got this overarching guide around us.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's American, and trained as a lawyer, but also in Reiki and other energy medicine practices. And she did her thesis on the ethics of practicing ethically or something like that. And it was great. She's got some really good stuff. So she goes really super in depth, but you can filter it all down to what are, you know, kind of the key principles, key things that we as practitioners need to be aware of.
Yeah. Look, I think I mean, we're not a litigious, I think that's the word. I mean, you know,
litigist,
yes, I can do it. I'm not very good at pronouncing words sometimes. I tend to make them up myself, which is always a bit of fun. You know, fortunately, you know, we're not sort of dominated by that, you know, as a country, but that doesn't mean, you know, that it's something we should, you know, we shouldn't be mindful of. You know, we have to be really careful and not promise things that are not true. You know, even if our heart, we know that there's some efficacy around it, there has to be some science around it as well. So it's just trading the line, trading the line that is that and it's a really fine balance. You know, some of us practitioners, for example, we don't do hands-on. I don't, but some do. So much even just around that, right, of what that looks like. and
Mm.
ethically. Yeah, and also it's
Yeah.
also about what we do ethically to protect ourselves from that too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Mhm.
I want to make it a
I'll
bit.
flick you through some stuff. Yeah.
Oh, I'd love that. Thank you. Just send it through. Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Mm.
All right. Love to. Thanks, Nathan. All right, and I'm just going to stop the recording.